I have said earlier that the social sciences, sociology, are not a genuine science but instead a form of positivism. So we must now discuss that positivism was primarily created in order to make superstitious thinking appear scientific. While chivalric humanism holds many attributes in common with positivism in that both philosophies promote the utilization of logic and the scientific method in moral decision-making, positivism differs in the belief that the scientific method can be directly applied to investigate and form conclusions about issues pertaining to morality. Chivalric humanism does not endorse this view. Rather, it says that morality should be designed to promote the survival of the human species and employ scientific knowledge and logic in the pursuit of this goal. Chivalric humanists should not believe that human civilization has scientific laws the same way that forces such as gravity and heat do. Rather, it is that the rules by which human societies operate are constructs designed to guide natural human instincts to more constructive ends, as humans in a civilization no longer live in the wild environment from which our ancestral instincts derived. Because these rules are constructs, some humans can choose to ignore them, and individuals can even intentionally seek to rebel against them as a means of subverting them. This makes these societal rules more of a guideline than a consistent thing such as a scientific principle or law. Were human society so simple a thing that it had natural laws which could be deduced which would allow the prediction of every single human's actions in every circumstance, then no leader would ever lose political power, as they could predict what the population will do in every situation, and the use of violence to exterminate dissenters would not be necessary in totalitarian states. The reality is that humans can be predictable when they organize into a tribe and behave consistently per the customs, values, and etiquettes of that tribe. Yet humans are less predictable when they break free of tribal affiliations or possess maladies that impact the ability to employ the critical thinking faculties of the mind. These two areas are mainly where most sociological theories break down and prove themselves to be unreliable methods of measuring human behavior. This is also why sociology is not a science. This distinction that chivalric humanism does not claim to be a science is important to recognize, so that chivalric humanism is not confused for being positivism, or even some type of sociology, as these things pretend to be a science, and consequently lead people into new delusional types of thinking about themselves, other people, and how the world works. Morality can be investigated using logic and science as means of which to measure the outcome of moral choices, but morality itself is not a natural force of the universe, but instead is a construct of human imagination as a means of assisting our decision-making processes. Morality is a tool we invent and adopt the usage of. Now, among its numerous manifestations, some adherents of positivism called logical positivists assume our universe is one of many possible universes, and then went on to produce a number of logical fallacies to justify the idea that if something is possible in one universe, then it must be possible in all universes. The matter was nonsense, but I must mention it because many of the ideas held by positivists have made their way into the contemporary sociological fields. Therefore, it should not be surprising that many of them rely heavily on statistical voodoo. That is, they change the context of the facts to support their theories. This is primarily done with creative storytelling to present facts in a way that supports their theories and then wrapping it all in the language of science. Positivism encourages the idea that we can evaluate a small sample of a group and use this information to form specific conclusions about the rest of the group. While this can be the case in situations where the integrity of this group is extremely uniform, this method can only produce nonsense when it is applied to a group that is highly individual, such as, for example, human beings who hold a great many different ideas and cultural behaviors that are different from one another. Consequently, positivism is not science, but rather a reductionist approach to science that seeks to eliminate all of the inconvenient complexities from science in favor of a method that is easily manipulatable to produce the desired results of the researcher who filters the information obtained from a small sample through the lens of their own personally held theories, background, knowledge, and values. Yet by removing the complexities, they also hide other explanations for the phenomena they observe which might be more reliable than conclusions they have made using reductionism. This makes their conclusions a result of confirmation bias, the tendency to interpret new evidence as confirmation of one's existing beliefs or theories. We see this type of reductionism in all manner of sociology branches, from feminism to critical race theory, to the political sciences and even anthropology. It is especially true of psychology. Note that while many branches of sociology have some useful ideas, such as the concept of cognitive dissonance, for example, these are not hard sciences. They are imperfect ideas to explain observed phenomena which are not easily measured, and because they cannot be reliably measured, the conclusions simply cannot be considered genuinely scientific. They are only useful when employed as guidelines for decision-making and problem-solving, and should not be confused as a science. Using the statistical voodoo of positivism, it has become common for sociologists, especially psychologists, to create pseudo-scientific studies that produce many kinds of factoids that are useless and often hindering to the welfare of humanity. They mask their assertions in the vocabulary of science and ignore that it is necessary to ask people their opinions in order to receive them. You can't project millions of individual people's opinions and behavior based on what less than 1% of that pool filled out in a questionnaire. There is no kind of science that allows you to play the role of a psychic and make fortune-telling predictions on what people outside a polled group are going to do or what they believe. Even if you survey all of these people, they could still be lying to you. Actual observations must be made to determine whether what is claimed by a person is genuine or not. If after reading all of this you still believe it is possible to make useful predictions after only reviewing a small sample of a thing, consider this. If you go to the beach and fill a bucket with water from the ocean and find no fish in the bucket, does this mean there are no fish in the ocean? The answer is no. Just because there are no fish inside the bucket does not mean there cannot be fish in the rest of the ocean. It is ludicrous to decide what cannot be in the rest of the ocean, based only by what you do not capture in your bucket. This is why I can say with confidence that surveys and polls are some of the most misused types of reports, and made to justify all kinds of beliefs that any objective person can plainly see as nonsense. There is no honest way for mathematics to invent opinions people have not given, let alone for mathematics to predict what people are going to do based on what they have not actually done yet. Anyone claiming they can do so is claiming to be a wizard, not a mathematician, and wizards do not exist. Furthermore, we must always consider whether a questionnaire is actually a push poll, which is a poll where the questions have actually been designed by the poll author to lead the responder toward a specific answer. The presence of leading questions in a questionnaire is evidence that it is a push poll. Now, you may be able to model an individual's future behavior based on analysis of what they have done in the past, but you absolutely cannot create a reliable model using what people merely claim they're going to do. This is because what they say they will do is not what they have yet done. And even then, you can't apply that model to different people whose behavior has not been analyzed. People are not naturally logical individuals, but a creature of their own habits. As I have said in prior chapters, people's opinions are not subject to the scientific method. Opinions are not a force of nature. Pollsters may use a positivist interpretation of science and logic in order to justify their math. But positivism is neither science nor logical, and to claim such is pseudoscience. Logical positivism is not scientific, and it is due to its prevalence in the sociological fields that results in many of the conclusions drawn by sociologists to be non-reproducible nonsense. We should cease labeling these fields social sciences and calling the people who advocate sociological theories social scientists. They are not genuine branches of science, and the people who advocate for these fields are not scientists. They are sociologists.